All right, hello wine drinking people. Time for more of what I've had to drink yesterday. This is our Super California tasting, and we could have called this California Cult tasting, but we got our California Cult tasting coming up in a couple weeks, so I figured we should probably give this a different name, because when people call up to make a reservation, they said, I'm calling to reserve for the California Cult tasting, we may put them on the wrong day, you know, so Super California is what we called this, and these all from the cellar of Dr. Bob, Veronica Maliner, one of the biggest collectors down here, and he's got a lot of wine we need to drink. And these wines, I would say, were what I would call in their peak years of drinking, the reds from California. Well, the '08 Syrahs were still a little young, but, you know, one of the reasons we put on these tastings, very important scientific work, to let you, our wine drinking people, know just when your top-level wines are ready to drink. We started out with a little Schramsberg Reserve 2000, and in honor of Hugh Davies, who was just in, we did a dinner with him at Lobster Bar in Las Olas, a fantastic event. And this is one of the marquee sparkling wine producers in California. Jack and Jamie Davies set out on Diamond Creek to make a world-class sparkling wine in the early 60s. 1965 was their first vintage of Blanc de Blanc, and Nixon brought that wine to China with him, which one of the things that made them famous. Barbara Walters saying, "We have President Nixon in China with a historic, you know, diplomatic, you know, appearance, and he's showed them the Schramsberg Blanc de Blanc." So we still have a hard time pronouncing French words today. Anyways, this is a mostly Pinot Noir based sparkling wine with a little bit of Chardonnay in this as well, and over 200 base wines to make this Reserve 2000 vintage, and it's got a really rich, nutty character. It sits in the case for nearly 5 years before release, and sits in contact with its own yeast cells for a very long time, so you get a lot of that yeast autolysis, a lot of rich, nutty character to this wine, but still some lovely, fresh apple fruit to it, and really nice ginger spice, some nutty notes to it, really long finish, and most excellent bottle of sparkling wine. About the same price as the J. Schram, which I've been to several tastings, blind tastings, where they showed that against Dom, Cristal, you know, Krug, a lot of other top-level wines that it always finishes for 1, 2, or 3. One of the greatest sparkling wines, not only in California, but the world, Schramsberg. All right, 2003 Marcassin Chardonnay, and, you know, we were going to start with this, but to me, this is not an aperitif wine. Marcassin Chardonnay needs to sit on the table and breathe, just like these great red wines did, and this wine was wine of the night. I don't think anyone thought they were coming to this tasting to get a white wine that they would say is their best wine. They were here to drink the red wines, but the Marcassin, every time you put it on the table, is a contender for wine of the night. This is Helen Turley and John Wetlaufer. They went out to the Sonoma coast, planted a vineyard in the early 90s. 96 was the first vintage of their estate wine. That's what this was, their estate Sonoma coast, 2003. 11 years old, and this wine's still drinking fabulously. It's got a beautiful nose of vanilla bean creme brulee, fresh buttered popcorn, really lovely fresh fruit for a wine that's this old from California, candied lemon, cinnamon, nutmeg, just an array of toasty oak spice. Really a lot of oak in this wine, but it's got a lot of fruit to match and some lovely minerality also. An incredibly rich wine on the tongue. This wine's got layers of fruit, exotic spices, a firm hand of acidity holding everything together, toasted coconut, very long and complex finish, creamy texture on the tongue. Wow, 6 votes for first place, 6 out of 16, and 2 for second, making this the wine of the night. A surprise for almost everybody there. All right, well, we started out with the, it doesn't matter where you started at tasting, young or old, and, you know, I put the wines in youngest to oldest order, so we'll go through them in that order. The Syrahs we put in first, and the Reva from Alban. Wow, 2008, a little monster. There's no Lorraine or Seymour, so the 2008, we'll call it a Super Reva. Those are their 2 top-end wines that they make in great vintages. This wine, really rich and dark, immense blackberry liqueur-like fruit, black licorice, violet notes, dark chocolate on the nose, very rich and full on the palate, 15+% alcohol, but this wine still has balance. And between the 2 wines, the Sine Qua Non and the Alban won out, and you know, it was very close, though. On the second day, I'd have to say the Sine Qua Non, to me, was a little better. But this was a second-place finisher. To the Marcassin tonight, the Alban Syrah. That's right, a Cabernet did not take second place. The Syrah did. The Sine Qua Non, which this is the hottest Rhone producer in California. This was their a wine they call, what is it, B2, and this is 6% Grenache, 2% Viognier, and wow, man, just an incredible bouquet here on the nose, and you know, this guy, Manfred, is just an artist. You know, his bottles are all different, the labels are all different every year, the name of the wines are different every year. I don't know how he's gained such a following, but for $300 to $500 a bottle, this wine's about $300 on the net, you'll find any of his wines. Nothing is reasonably priced from this guy, but all tiny production wines. This is a run to various different vineyard sites. They've also developed their own vineyards here, and wow, the nose here just incredible. Knockout, blackberry liqueur, pretty violet notes, roasted game, brown spices. Even bigger and better on the second day, a big and explosive wine on the tongue with layers of that dark berry and plum fruit, toasty, smoky oak notes, and even though this wine is big, also 15% plus alcohol, it still leaves the tongue salivating for food at the end. A wonderful long layered finish. This wine could go another 10 years in your cellar easily. Got 3 votes for first place, 3 votes for second, making it the number 3 wine on the table, but probably got more mentions than any of the other wines on the table. A blockbuster killer juice. All right, the 98 Colgin Herb Lamb up next. And this is a vineyard that started in 1992. Ann Colgin and Fred Schrader started this project together, and then Ann and Fred broke up in 94, 95, whatever. 1998, Fred actually started his own winery, Schrader, which is being wildly successful. This Herb Lamb vineyard has a very unique bouquet to it to me. Every time I have this wine, I notice this green tea, kind of minty character to the dark currant and cherry fruit. Lovely black earth, also anise, spice, black olive tapenade. Wonderful complexity here on the nose, and smooth and silky on the tongue. 98, considered a lesser vintage, but this one of the top wines of the vintage. Some lovely exotic spice, and still has some tannins here. Yeah, this is the one wine that I would say of the Cabernets that could go a few more years before you open another bottle, depending on how you like your wine. Wonderful balance and freshness in this wine. It's still some vibrant fruit, most excellent juice. The 1993 Abreu, another tiny producer. Mr. Abreu is a viticulturist. You know, if you wanted to make a cult wine in the 90s, you would hire Abreu to plant your vineyard and then Helen Turley to make your wine. And you're guaranteed 95 point scores from Parker, pretty much. But this wine gets my vote for the most improved on the second day. What a wonderful bouquet this wine had. Just opened up incredible wild herbs, flowers, along with a good hand of ripe currant and cherry fruit, dark chocolate, sweet tobacco spice. Really lovely complexity. Quite large in size, still on the palate, but silky smooth tannins. This 93 vintage, really drinking at its peak right now. Really lovely fruit still here, but soft and velvety on the finish. And this wine also better on the second day. Only got 1 vote for first place, but a lot of mentions for third and fourth. A lot of people love this Colgin. Most excellent juice. I'm sorry, the Abreu. All right, the Shafer Hillside Select up next, and this is the largest production of all the wines on the table in well, pretty much everything but the Insignia here. And they make 2,000 to 4,000 cases of this, and wow, this was also awesome. Red currants, black cherry fruit, dark mocha, fresh loamy notes, tobacco spice, really complex nose, and opened up really nicely as the night progressed. This wine's got a good amount of that fruit still left on the palate, silky smooth tannins, drinking at its peak. There's no reason to keep these 93s any longer, in my opinion. But they still have got fruit, and they're well balanced. You could put them in your cellar for another 10 years, but like I said, I just can't imagine them getting much better than they are today. And this wine got 2 votes for first place and 6 votes for second, making it one of the most popular wines of the evening, finishing in 4th place, most excellent juice. The 1993 Insignia, well, if there was one wine that didn't live up to the billing, it was this wine. It got no votes for first or second place. Showed a bit of a beef stew-like character. We just had this wine in a vertical tasting, and maybe not quite as fresh as the last bottle. Some fresh, loamy, earthy notes. Just a little bit dried out in the fruit. This wine did open up. It was better with the mole sauce. Everything's better with a little mole. And may have been a slightly off bottle, though. Very good still. I wouldn't throw it out if someone opened it up. There was nothing bad about it. Then the Old Dogs. In 1977, Ridge Montebello. Paul Draper, one of the only winemakers, been making wine longer than I've been alive in California. Well, top winemakers. And this was a drought vintage, so the wine's very intense. This wine had a lovely bouquet still of dried herbs, green peppers, cigar box spice, but a little bit lean on the fruit. Hey, it was only 11.7% alcohol, so soft and velvety on the tongue, though. Good hand of acidity still here, and also a bit of tannins. This wine may be lacking fruit, but still in good shape, and got 2 votes for second place, making it the most popular of the Old Dogs. The 1975 Diamond Creek Red Rock, the lowest rated wine on the table, according to the press. Got 84 points in the Spectator. But to me, this wine had a brilliant bouquet of mint, green peppercorn, spice, gravelly, minerally notes, dried tobacco. Only 12% alcohol, but still had some little currant berry fruit left to it. Very smooth and silky on the tongue. This wine, really delicious. I mean, if you want to go out and buy 84-point wines that taste like this at a fraction of what the new releases cost, I mean, you could probably find this wine for $100 to $150 out there. A really delicious wine, and still very much alive. Got one vote for second place this evening, so yeah, everything really nice. Everything showed up. And then we opened up a couple of extra wines. You know you're always going to get extra at tasting here. We had the Premier Napa Valley 01 Artesa, otherwise known as Bookends, made by the great Don von Stavern, which was drinking beautifully. And the 02 Cafaro Premier Napa. Joe Cafaro, one of my favorite winemakers in Napa. Both of those fabulous as well. That's what we had to drink at our Super California tasting. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.